And here we go. So it's been a while. We met last time in June. I hope you had an enjoyable summer, either resourcing or fruitful or adventurous. I should have made a quiz about it for next time. I will remember that. Today, I'm going to present to you several engagement opportunities that we have for the Community of Practice. We're celebrating a year and a half of CURIOSOIL with a lot of several consortium partners who have advanced some of the work and deliverables that we can now present to you. But as the theme of today is back to school, I invited today Ella Spalding from Spain to present one of her soil education initiative. I will mute the mics of the person who is, yep, voila. And then we're going to follow up more on the CURIOSOIL part. We're going to share a teasing on a training, a communication training, how to communicate scientific content across diverse audience. For those who attended in January, we had already a communication training on how to shoot professionally with a smartphone. So this is the second iteration on communication trainings for soil education and soil science. Then we're going to give the floor for Javier for the Soil Curiosity Kit, which was already presented in June, introduced in June, and now we're getting into the concrete part of harvesting materials for the Soil Curiosity Kit. By now, I believe everybody knows what is the Soil Assessment Framework, Soil Literacy Assessment Framework, the SLAF. And we're gonna give the floor to Ingrid, who is coordinating this initiative. She's gonna share about the pilot results that happened in the Netherlands, and also bring more clarity. We're gonna bring clarity together on how the SLAF is to be implemented in the next few months, as it's the baseline of CURIOSOIL to make that assessment. Then I'm going to give the floor to Alberto from IUCN for the next engagement opportunity. It's the national workshops to advocate for soil education in each country. Well, and to conclude, I will be presenting in the name of the World Soil Museum, their mobile app, the beta version of the mobile app. Voila, so I put it last to ensure that you will stay until the end to have this gift from the World Soil Museum. All right. So maybe Ella, I do not see Ella here yet.
Maybe. Hi, I am. Well, it says estudio nuevo, so that's why.
Yes. Oh, I give you the floor. Voila, thank you for the renaming. I give you the floor, and you can also pass the slide in autonomy.
Oh, great. Thank you. Just give me 1 minute. I just will do one brief
Take your time. I can also
and I'll be right.
This invitation, so I will try to do at every CUP meeting to try to feature one of the material, one of the techniques that you use to engage with different audience on soil health, and soil education. So if this resonates with you, you feel free to reach out to me for an initiative to present it in December or in March or in June of next year. Because so this time was in Spain. I would love to have another country in December. So let me know. And the floor is yours, Ella.
Okay, thank you so much. So just a brief introduction. My name is Ella Spalding. I am an artist and facilitator, and I'm working in the ecotones or connections between disciplines, but mainly in focusing on arts and ecology and finding ways of reconnecting ourselves more with ourselves, with others, and nature. And as part of that, I developed the Suelo methodology over the last 10 years based on projects that were initiated in Panama, where I'm from, and where the platform Estudio Nuevo was born and is based still today. And after 10 years of facilitating multidisciplinary residencies and programs in art and science, addressing different ecological topics and social ecological topics locally, I've taken the Suelo project, which was our pilot in 2014, and is kind of where my heart is most based, because Suelo is really something that starts from a place. It's a way of reconnecting people with the places we inhabit, and starts from soil, which is what brings us together today. But also in an expanded sense of what suelo, soil in Spanish, what soil represents and what a place can involve, which is both literally the soil, but also all of the elements of the biosphere that make up a place. And so I brought that back in 2020 and started developing a methodology, and have finally this year produced and printed a field guide of how to use these series of suggestions or ways that we have explored to connect with place through soil as a material, as a metaphor, as a means for connection, and not only to the place but to the community, and mainly to build community. And since I believe everybody here are soil and soil practitioners, perhaps it's useful to look at this methodology as a way to connect further with the more broader community that perhaps is raising awareness, and it goes a little bit beyond just literal soil. So I will just start, and here I'm trying to move the slides, Abdul, but
we're on the guidelines now.
Okay. My internet is probably slow because we have
now we are on the quote of
here.
I will pass the slides. Now we're on the Satish Kumar quote.
Okay, I would like to be in the beginning and then just go to the first slide, the next slide. Okay. So so the Satish, okay. I'll just do it if it's slower for me. So now we're in Satish?
Exactly.
Okay. So this is a good quote to exemplify what I just said. I put soil first because it represents nature and sustains the entire life system. Everything comes from the soil and returns to the soil. Food, which sustains life, comes from soil. Water, which nourishes life, is held by the soil. The sun, the moon, and the stars all relate to the soil. The soil is a metaphor for the entire natural system. If we take care of the soil will take care of us all. Through the soil, we are all related and interconnected. We are held and sustained by the soil. We depend on the soil. All living beings depend on the soil, and soil treats all living beings equally. Rich or poor, poet or peasant, young or old, whoever we are, loves us unconditionally and feeds us indiscriminately. So Suelo is a methodology, like I said, to reconnect more deeply with the places we inhabit through the exploration of certain tools that I share. The natural and cultural value, as well as regenerative pathways for the present and future, are revealed. It is a journey through the deep time and unique characteristics of a place. It is an invitation to rediscover the fundamental elements, water, air, flora, fauna, and soil, to get to know the human and non-human communities that form it. So before I get into the tools, I like to share the guidelines or the rules, let's say, that we abide by, which are also inspired by what soil is and represents. On the one hand, there's deep listening, and that goes to say that we encourage that people really just focus on deep listening in the sense of listening to everything that is around us with a sense of humility, and not reacting when we are in conversation, but really listening, honoring what the person or the ecosystem is saying, and then responding rather than reacting. experiential learning in the sense that we want to learn through hands-on experiences, not just talking and presentations. Of course, right now we're talking heads, but ideally when we do a Suelo experience or when we do working with soil, the aim is to really get people involved with all of their senses and other ways of learning. A multidisciplinary focus, given that soil itself is full of very multiple species and varieties of species. The idea is that the methodology or the work that we do with soil is also multidisciplinary in the sense that we want to address soil from all its different perspectives and involve different views of life. It's a horizontal exchange in the sense that everyone is an expert in their lives to some extent. And so we encourage non-hierarchical exchanges, trying to have a basic platform where everyone's voice is heard and valid and important. We want to encourage space and time for reflection in between the different things that happen because it's multidisciplinary, it can feel very chaotic. Of reflection allows for back loops to show how everything is interconnected. Then we encourage everyone to document everything that as you go, all the things that come up for you, but also all the experience, so that later you can share that, organize the things you've documented we always make publications as a way to share and celebrate. So now I can share, hopefully the next slide is the tools. Are we still on the guidelines or are we in the tools?
Yeah, on the Suelo profile.
Okay, thank you. So as in science, the Suelo profile is a tool that gives us a snapshot or portrait of a place. See, when you go into study soil, often you do the soil profile and then you see these layers, and these layers can reveal the deep time, the present, or the analogy we've made is to look at the deep time, the present, and the possible futures of a place. And if you look at this poster, it kind of exemplifies the type of research that we go through. And when I meant before with the guidelines that it's experiential, the idea is to seek out the knowledge holders and the people that have that information in the context of geology, paleoecology, archaeology for the deep time. Then as you go through that process of seeking out those people, you start discovering things and places and ideas that perhaps you're not used to. Then looking at the vibrant present, maybe starting with where you are and the practices that you hold, but then also expanding into other aspects of the ecosystem that are related and that perhaps could be other interesting points that bring people into their attention to the importance of soil and the place that you're working in. And as you go through this process, the possible futures might already be in your mind about what you would like to see in the future, but the idea, the suggestion is not to hold on to attach yourself to an idea of what you want to bring forth, but to let also other possible futures emerge from this path of inquiry. And then Suelo associations. This is based on a wonderful book called Field to Palette that is soil science and art together. It's a series of interviews, but in the introduction, she speaks of the uses of soil, and they classified them in this way, with sustenance, habitat, material, heritage as the storage of heritage, interface as in the quote unquote ecosystem services, which I don't like that phrase, but what soil does for the environment, for the planet at large, and soil as platform. So like urban planning and how the urban public space is distributed. And often people are working mainly in sustenance. I'm not sure the people in this group, but maybe people are working more in soil and food, or more in restoration and reforestation. And we have troubles reaching out to other people that perhaps are not interested in those topics. But by amplifying the themes into soil as material, or the heritage of a place that is held in the soil, or articulating what this type of soil in this particular place, or the ecosystem that we have. For example, if you live in a place with mangroves, what that relationship of the sea and the land and the mangrove forest is doing for the place. Or if you're dealing with a lot of urban planning issues, or soil, uso de suelo, as they call it in Spanish, how those can be other ways of engaging people. So these are ways of how we relate with the place, but there also can be a way of diversifying our outreach. And finally, the third tool is the spheres of engagement, which is kind of a tool, just I like to say, it's to help us identify where we are, where our action has an effect, in what sphere, let's say, from the personal and the body to the planetary. The descriptions, so personal, house, and garden, on the top of the circle are human conceptions, whereas the ones on the bottom are more ecological perceptions of space. And it's a tool that I use, for example, when we design a suelo experience, the idea is to, like I said, make it multidisciplinary and on so many ways. So the idea is that perhaps you work on something that has to do with the deep time, something with the present, and something that's addressing the future, or that you're working with something that has to do, and that you, in the soil associations, that you not only approach soil from food, but that you try to diversify and approach it from habitat and something else, so that you have a few other ways of reaching people. And then with this tool, you can see, well, are we only focusing on the microcosm and the body is home? Or how can we convey to people that some of these actions have regional effects or planetary effects? And composting is one example that I love to use, because it's something that we do in our garden, or in our local, where we're growing food, and then, or where we're using our kitchen scraps and then creating compost. But when that goes into the soil, and then we eat the food that's been fed by this super healthy soil that came out of our compost, that affects our body in the microcosm level, with all the microorganisms that we're sharing with the soil. And also, by improving the quality of the soil, it has planetary effects, because it increases the soil's capacity to be a carbon sink. And so this is just a way to orient ourselves also, when people feel like what we're doing, what is the good of what we're doing? Is it even worth it, doing this with all the big climate crisis or ecological crises that we are living in? And I find this tool helps us to see, like, well, everything is connected. If I do something at the neighborhood level, it still has radiating effects inwardly and outwardly to other spheres. So just some of the guidelines of when we suggest that you do soil, or you want to start doing a soil project, to prepare, is to think, clarify some questions for yourself, like, where do you want to do it? Is it in your farm, or do you want to expand it a little bit further to an area, or with schools? Or so decide where and with whom you want to do it. What is your motivation? What is your connection to the place? What is your current role in the place? This role also changes, or can you feel like it can change after you've gone through the deep path of inquiry. How much time do you want to dedicate, so that you can give yourself a realistic time span, and within that, design realistic activities that make sense for what you have available, your resources, your time, and your desires, and yeah, with whom you want to collaborate. And again, in terms of steps, it's defining the place, and often mapping. And these don't have to happen exactly in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like they can also happen in different moments. But so once you've defined the place, the mapping and observing can happen simultaneously. And when I mean mapping, it doesn't have to be literal geographical map. It can also be a mind map of who is living in this ecosystem, who are the other people we want to reach out to, who are we already connected with, what are the elements of the ecosystem that are human and non-human that we can count on or that we're curious about. And these maps are kind of guidelines as to where help you define what kind of activities you want to do, where you want to do them, how, for how long, etc. Kind of a tool that you carry on with. And also, this is not mentioned here, but also having this documenting constantly, having a notebook that helps you kind of take note of all the things that emerge. And then the idea is then to use, based on this brainstorm, then you can use the 3 tools to help you define what kind of activities you want to do. Then you take note, and then from that kind of first research, then you can design 1 or 2 or 3 experiences that you can share with the community. And based on those first rounds, then perhaps you decide, when you have your results, you evaluate what the results are based on your documentation. We always like to, this is not in the images, but I'll just show you. Well, this is the field guidebook. It's a very thin, kind of like a fanzine almost. But for every Suelo experience, we've made publications where everybody who took part in the project contributes their experience, and it can be images, it can be mind maps, or it can be poems, all different things. But the beauty of the publications is that it's always resulting. This was in Berlin a few years ago, and always results in a portrait of the place as well as the experience. This was our first pilot one. We made just a few handmade, hand-bound, printed, and the rest are PDFs online. This was from an art project that we used Suelo in Colombia to connect with a particular community that are living in a really precarious area at the end of the Magdalena River, and they are fishing because the river connects with the sea at that point and the currents are so wild. The fishermen there developed a way of fishing with kites, and it's a super beautiful, poetic way of subsistence that they designed for themselves based on the place that they live in, and the fact that this place is so ephemeral and in fact now is already subject to real estate development, and they're probably being displaced. That publication was really kind of haptic and not so full of text and things. And just to finalize, I just wanted to leave you with a little quote you can read if you want of Robin Wall Kimmerer, and just invite you to write if you have more questions. Suelo is also a way that we're connecting with this notion of weaving nature culture corridors on a planetary scale, and there's a podcast on our websites, on the Abdul also website, as well as my own, lspalding.com, where we're exploring these notions of solidarity between ecosystems and practices.
Thank you. I will be pasting all the contact points on the chat, and the slide deck is available for everybody. Thank you, Ella, for making this introduction, which will tie up very well into the Soil Curiosity Kit, right? I hope you will get in touch with Javier directly. And
Super.
And if what Ella has shared resonates with you and you have something similar that you're implementing, complementary, a little bit different, let me know and be featured for the Winter COP meeting in December. And now,
thank you, Abdul.
Thank you, Ella. I will now give the floor to Michaela. Hello.
Hello. Hi. Abdul, would you be so kind to share the presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
You can pass them yourself.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. Great. So hello, everyone. It's my first time joining such a meeting, so I guess I'm a new face to everyone. So my name is Michaela Buzukova, and I work at ESCI, and so one of the partners of the CURIOSOIL project. So I guess you're familiar with my colleague, Ariane. So I'll be leading the upcoming interactive online training on making soil science stick, communicating with impact across audiences. And today I just wanted to briefly introduce the workshop concept to you and invite you to join us on October 2nd, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central European time. So that's perfect, this works. So this training is designed for anyone who wants to strengthen their ability to communicate scientific content beyond the academic sphere. So for example, to audiences such as educators, policymakers, journalists, but also researchers from outside your field. So the training session has two goals or two main outcomes. First, we will develop a practical science communication toolkit, so with various tools and techniques that you can use individually. And you will learn how to identify and understand various target audiences, how to craft clear and compelling messages that resonate with your target audience, how to choose the right format and platform, whether online or offline, for your specific communication goal, and how you can improve the clarity of your key message and how thereby to maximize the impact of your research. So this is the first part of the workshop, the SciComm Toolkit, but we don't want to be very theoretical. It will be a very hands-on and interactive session. So the second part will be us putting these tools directly to use. So throughout the workshops, workshop participants will work on their own science communication mini project. So this can be a social media post, a blog article, a concept for an infographic, or a script for a video. The format is entirely up to you, but the idea is that everything you learn during the workshop, you put immediately to use. And by the end of the session, you both have a fully equipped toolkit as well as a science communication piece that you can then further refine or immediately publish on whatever platform you choose. So you can register via the link on the slide. And please also feel free to share this information with colleagues or members from your team who might be interested in joining. And if you plan to join, I kindly ask you to fill out a pre-workshop survey that I will drop the link to in the chat, just to give me a better idea of what you know already about science communication, what your expectations are, so that we can tailor the workshop to your needs. So thank you for your attention and giving me the opportunity to briefly pitch the workshop here. And I look forward to seeing you in the training workshop. And if there are any questions or uncertainties, please feel free to speak up, or I'll also drop my email in the chat so you can ask me also via email. Okay.
Thank you.
That's all from my side.
I will just a little zoom in that it's organized by organization, the European Science Communication Institute. So you are the most relevant to help us ensure that soil science content stick with audience, reach an audience, and gets traction in case, yes. So thank you. See you.
Perfect. Thank you for plugging SP again. Yes.
See you soon on the 2nd of October. So this is open for COP members, but also to your colleagues from within your staff, even if they didn't attend such of those meetings. Because the main aim, definitely, there is a CURIOSOIL objective so that we can spread the deliverables that we're gonna do. But the overall aim is still to increase the capacity of everybody who works on soil health or on soil science to get their messages across. So it's a very open meeting. Yeah, since there are no questions, I will now pass it on to Javier.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. So, in June, I introduced briefly the Soil Curiosity Kit, and now it's already September. It's time to gather the ideas. So I will now explain again, and now there are guidelines available, and also a Google form where you can already give ideas, comments, suggestions for activities. Can you pass the slide, please?
Yes, you also have control.
Yes, well, I rather if it's okay with you, I'd rather if somebody passes the slide for me. Otherwise, I get confused. Sorry. So, what is the Soil Curiosity Kit? So, one way to see it is like something practical and brief, but also that people can adapt. So something like a soil literacy cookbook. So it's basically focused on activities. And then it's important that they can be for formal education context, like the classroom, but also non-formal, that the materials, they need to be accessible and affordable and not really very complicated from a technical point of view. And then we suggest a size of between 5 to 30 participants. And maybe some activities can be for individual use, but it can be for, in principle, for a small group, from a group of friends, a family, to a classroom or larger group. Next slide, please. So these are the general recommendations. Also a little bit to define. Otherwise, it gets too broad, and also to keep into these practical recipes and practical activities. So try to emphasize the connection and relationship with other subjects, especially if your activity is for classroom use, for formal education, like with which subject it is addressed, because giving one thing we have seen in the CURIOSOIL project is like the way that the programs work, the classrooms work, the workload of the teachers and everything. One smart strategy is try to give them activities and contents that they can fit into the existing subjects and the existing workflow, rather than try to create completely new spaces. And the good thing is that soil it's really connected to so many subjects, and it can be explored in so many ways that it can be really introduced in many different settings. Then also to highlight, like to encourage this direct interaction with soil and soil materials, and prioritize on-site activities as much as possible, because that's something that we have seen that is really creates a special connection, and it's also something that very often we are lacking. But of course, it's also great to explore metaphors, culture, online activities, digital media. Yeah, next slide, please. And then within the CURIOSOIL, we're also, and related with direct connection to soil, to have a multisensorial and inclusive approach, try to use all the senses, and also beyond sight and even hearing. Also touching, smelling, and even tasting. We have already had 2 multisensorial workshops that were really fun, and the participants really enjoyed. And we want to continue the experience also in the proposed activities. And especially if you have some good experience and some good technique to connect with soil with the senses, then also it would be great to hear about it. And then on a more abstract level, to work with metaphors that relate with concepts. This can even get as precise as try to relate, for example, to data visualization or to scientific concepts, but it can also be more poetic or general, or related to some of the key messages about soil. This can be, for example, when we see the kind of activities, this can be as games, as visual metaphors, even as movement. So next slide. So To kind of classify these activities, these recipes, we propose you all these types, which are non-exclusive, and they also overlap. But it's just to have a basic structure. So when people are looking for an activity they might want to try and they might want to implement with a group, they know a little bit what are they going to do and what do they need for that. Next slide. So the first one is observation exercises and experiments. This is quite straightforward. This is the one that is most directly linked to scientific work and citizen science. And there's already quite a lot of material in general, like for science museums, science kits for children, for education, etc. And there also part of it is also related to soil, but still it's a really important component. And probably you all know and you have done some of these tests, like for example mixing soil with water and seeing the layers, or simple tests with vinegar to see if soil is basic, if soil is acid, etc. So it's that would be great to also to know things that you are implementing and they are helpful for you to know about to know more about yourselves, to know more about your practices. And then let's go to the next slide. So from the experiments and the observation and the science, we can go into games and toys, and actually it can also be overlap, and in many different ways. So it can be both playing directly with soil and the soil related materials, but it can also be developing games or developing toys with other materials, but which relate to soil animals, soil concepts. For example, when Ella was talking about this soil and landscape connection, this is also quite interesting and quite powerful to explore. One example we have included in the guidelines are memory games or matchmaking games for these different types of soils and some of the iconic or most characteristic profiles. And of course, you can also think about board games, which is it has huge possibilities. Next slide, please. Then crafts and arts. This is about making things, and then here again, one option is also to use directly soil materials, like within these multisensorial workshops we have been exploring with soil pigments. And of course, clay is one of the oldest and most basic art modeling material. But then, of course, you can use other materials, natural, upcycled, or otherwise, to kind of represent soil. Either like try to make an accurate representation of some soil organism or some soil process, or to play with these metaphors. And of course, when you what happened to the presentation, Abdul?
It's coming back.
Okay, so also making things and customizing things can be really useful almost for all the other categories. For example, for the experiments, you can create your own jars, your own classification boxes, your own observation and measure tools, or adaptant, and of course the same for the games and toys. Use different techniques, different materials to create them or customize them. So next slide, please. Now I see a question. If I
it's a,
are there any teachers in the room?
I will ask it later. Please continue.
Okay. So next, from this making things, we go into moving. This of course is also related with many games, with many arts, and also with just moving on soil and being on the field. But this would be more like using these metaphors, using movement, using the body to connect soil, to express about soil, to represent soil, or to engage in direct contact with nature. And then of course, on one hand, we can have a dance, and then it can be combined with music, with sound. And then of course, if you go into theater, then you can also introduce a dialogue, you can introduce different objects, etc. So it can be as ambitious as can be. And also one of the non-formal education or artistic space can be theater groups, can be a group that is preparing a performance for carnival, for a neighborhood, etc. So, and then the next slide. Now we go more into the words, and words, stories, writing, text, and of course this can be one of the big challenges of ENVISOIL of CURIOSOIL is like that we are addressing all education levels, so also all ages. So in this way, here we can go from storytelling for children, or try to create a really simple story, simple word-based games for children who are learning to read and to deal with words, to a very complicated intellectual, philosophical discussion dealing with ethics, with history, with philosophy, with everything in between. And of course, there are also games which rely heavily on words and language, like this game that you write a part of a story and then fold it so you only see the last sentence and somebody continues it. Yeah, next slide. Then these are some cross-cutting themes, which are of course non-exclusive at all, and we would be really happy to hear other suggestions. But these are kind of we have found them quite interesting to explore. One big one is this connection between the soil and the landscape, that it can also be really helpful because landscapes in general is something that we see, is something that we can connect with, is something that seems more closer, and then the soil is usually a bit hidden. But if we make evident how above and below ground and how the soil influences the landscape, and also it is shaped by the plants, by the climate, but all the processes that are happening in this landscape, this can be really like a powerful tool. Life underground, this is also an amazing field, and is also in research. Is still being discovered, all these different connections. I don't know if you follow, but recently there was a scientific work trying to map all how plants and fungi and also how the fungal networks exchange and move nutrients around, and they had this very beautiful visualization. And of course, you also have all the different animals and microorganisms that live on soil. So multiple shapes, and from bigger animals to really small, and this can be a source for cartoons, for toys, for games, for lots of things. And then soil magic, culture, folklore. Maybe go to the next slide. There's a bit more. Yes. Okay. Yes. Go to the last one, because sorry, I skipped this one. You will get the presentation later. So yeah, sometimes some examples are, for example, the Scandinavian trolls, which are more linked to mountains, to rocks. Something the Dutch kabouters. This was there's this very good book by Dutch illustration Portvliet. That then it was quite famous in Spain. Yeah, Ingrid, did I say it right?
It's Ringpoortvliet.
In Portsfleet. All right. There's also this German book, like about 100 years ago, about the root children. Then, for example, the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings, they lived in kind of earth dwellings. And of course, we also have lots of scary creatures, because soil is also related to death, like vampires, zombies, etc. So it's quite an interesting field, and it would be also really interesting to see which specific stories and characters you have related with the underground and with soil in your own culture. So next slide, please. So yeah, like how to send your proposals and which is the timeline. Go to next slide. In the message that you will get with all the information after this meeting, you will have the form, and then also some extra documents with the kind of complete version of the guidelines. That this presentation was a kind of summary, and for example, things like what is already on the website. And you can when you, for example, you can decide if you want to be acknowledged, and how. It can be from, yes, you really want to promote your name, your organization, your website, whatever, to you just want to leave a pseudonym, or not to be acknowledged at all. This is also in the form. And then the timeline will be like by December. That I believe that in December there's also a kind of longer session for the COPs. So it would be great to have your ideas and proposals, but then at least like a first round, and then also try to bring it further. So thank you very much, and yeah, looking forward for your proposals.
Thank you, Javier. So now it's a good opportunity to answer to the questions. So there was a good question from Dora. Are there any teachers here now? I don't know about this meeting here now, but throughout the COP, which is now 350 participants engaged in different spaces and different working groups, there are teachers and there are also school heads. One of the CURIOSOIL partner is the European School Head Association. So we are in touch with them, even though maybe they're not attending the meetings right now. And then a question from Raza, is there a provision to translate?
They are.
They are, of course, Petra. And so some are, definitely. Just seeing that there's 58, usually we're most of 100 to these meetings. So thank you, Petra. Petra, which is director of ESHA, the European School Head Association. Raza, about the translation, yes, the materials will be translated in 9 languages, 9 European languages: Portuguese, Spanish, French, Italian, German, Dutch, Turkish. I hope I don't forget one. Slovenian and Croatian. So they will be translated in most of the languages. You will be involved actually to help us with the proofreading. They're going to be automatically translated. First proofreading by our partners, by the COP leaders, then by COP participants. And that is where the next question of Roberto comes into play. We are looking for schools. We are actually looking for schools first to implement the soil literacy assessment framework, the quizzes that we're going to present right now by Ingrid. And after this assessment of soil literacy is done, testing the soil curiosity kit, testing the MOOCs, the massively open and online courses. So definitely for us, it's a pleasure that schools do it and test it with the teachers and with the students. We're also open to have those materials tested outside of schools, outside of educational settings. Definitely. The main aim is that those materials are tested, that we have feedback, that we can improve them, have them in such a quality that by the end of the project, they are ready to be used and capitalized throughout the EU. Voilà. So as much testing as much piloting in schools and outside of schools, Robert. So many questions. Francisca, will there also be materials for professional and continuing education, or is it mainly for primary and secondary school? There is a target for university and the general public, let's say, but the main target, like let's say, the main target is primary and secondary school with streams for the general public and especially for university level. And the proposal idea can come from Asian co-partner, definitely. It's soil is universal, although geographical specificity. So yes, feel free. Even if it's outside of the 17 countries of CURIOSOIL, we are looking forward for. It's about soil. It's about how to engage with soil, how to create that connection, transmit some knowledge and care. So definitely, rather. And thank you all for those questions. So look forward to the conclusion email that I will send with the recording, where you will have the form contributed to the, yes. And I pass it back to Javier.
Just to highlight something, because I've seen some mentions to secondary, primary education teachers and stuff. Like actually, we have another work package and we have a series of materials which are more, and MOOCs, which are more focused on formal education. So the Soil Curiosity Kit, really feel free to make it open and to go for these other spaces like theater groups, like neighborhood association, carnival, music school, community garden, friends or like nerds playing role games, all that. But the thing is that it also overlaps, and it's also good to have this kind of fun and more artistic activities that can be adapted in classroom. And of course, many of the classrooms, they can be useful both in the classroom and outside. Another field, which is will be particularly close to Abdul and to ECOLISE, is also facilitation and community building. Because some of the activities, they can also be really small. It can be a 15 minutes icebreaker that you can use in another session, and it's another way to bring soil related content. So that's the thing. Like, don't give your idea, even if it's just sketch it. Of course, it will be really valuable to also to know things that you have been doing, or you have experience, or they already happen in your group. Thank you very much.
So I took the time now to paste all the content, the forms, and the links to contribute to the Soil Curiosity Kit. And now I pass it on to Ingrid. Hello.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Abdul. So whereas Javier has been giving an inspiring talk about everything that's well happening in the Soil Curiosity Kit, I will take a bit of a step back and talk about soil literacy assessment framework. So yeah, ideally within CURIOSOIL, we focus on learning and connecting with soil. Playing along with the big European soil mission, so really big player, large scale initiatives, again focused on protecting and restoring soil, so that's all connected here, all linked. Everything aimed at having healthy soils by 2050. So the idea is, of course, that if everyone knows a bit more about soil, is more aware of what soil does, the function soil have, and also have a certain attitude and behavior towards soil, that it helps protecting soil, basically. Now, let me see, I have control, so that's great. So soil literacy, yeah, so what is it? We measure it, we are going to measure it as a combination of attitudes, behaviors, and skills necessary to make sound decisions that promote soil health and ultimately contribute to the well-being of the natural environment. So that's actually what it is all about. And so that's why we do it. Now, the soil literacy assessment framework has been set up by a process where we first within CURIOSOIL, within well, the soil expertise that's present in our partners, and also the education experts, obviously. We defined main domains such as, well, previous slides, so soil diversity, soil services, soil threats, soil solutions. These are main domains, and then we defined subdomains, so going more into the main domains, descriptors, learning objectives, and by this process, we came up with two questionnaires, one for primary education and one for the general public. So with these two questionnaires, we aim to target 5 so-called target groups, and then measure. So in fact, a baseline survey, we measure the soil literacy at primary level, secondary level, tertiary level, and also in teachers and lifelong learners. So those are our 5 target groups for whom we designed these 2 questionnaires. And now about the implementation, because that's of course, what we are talking about right now. Well, before we are able to use these questionnaires we need to pilot them. So we have been piloting. The questionnaires were in a way ready before summer, but we have been piloting them before and over the summer. First, I refer here to the general public questionnaire. So that's what the GPQ means. We tested it on 79 respondents, and they were aged between 16 and 76. We tested both the English version, so let's say the original version, and also the translated Dutch version. And this general public questionnaire proved to be reliable, so high reliability. So that means that it's consistent. You would measure the same outcome, let's say, if you run it twice or 3 times or infinite times. It had acceptable difficulty, so there were easy questions, there were difficult questions. We were able to distinguish between high and low performers. So in a way, it had a very good outcome, this pilot, and this questionnaire is ready to go. So of course, busy with translations and all. Now for the primary education questionnaire, this was a bit more difficult. So we ran a first pilot with 19 respondents, aged mainly between 8 and 10, and we piloted the Dutch version. And for some of the, let's say, parts of the questionnaires, the reliability and validity were not at an acceptable level, meaning that we had to revise part of the questionnaire. And in fact, it's not yet ready. So now we have just run a second pilot. Well, preliminary outcomes, they point into a good direction, that it has at least improved quite a lot, but we are not sure it's ready yet. So yeah, so that's the status quo, I would say, for these 2 questionnaires. Once the questionnaires are ready, and also, now I'm showing the QR code to the general public questionnaire we used to pilot. So yeah, before we can actually implement, so let's say have the questionnaires at the schools, like primary schools, secondary schools, and also public at large, everywhere, basically, in many European countries, at least 15, hopefully. So here I show you a proposed workflow for secondary education. So we aim that at ages 14 and 18 years old, so everything in between 14 and 18 years. For instance, in the Netherlands, this is the way we could do it, but we can only do that after ethical consent is granted. So that's very important. In the Netherlands, we are fine, we can start, but I'm sure not every country, well, it's a difficult thing, getting ethical consent. But once you get it, in the Netherlands, for instance, for students age 14, 15, it could be that a teacher in secondary school plans to run the survey, to let the students do the quiz. So the teacher would, during a lesson, need to introduce CURIOSOIL and send an email to the students. Once the students are home, they need to open the email, they need to click on the link, and the link would lead them to a consent form. which we make in software called Qualtrics. Opening this form, the students can give their consent by signing, and also the parents afterwards give their consent that their child can take part in our research. So this is absolutely necessary before the students can do the quiz, which enables us to measure, let's say, the soil literacy in the European people. Secondary education, I'm now talking about. Now then, if they give their consent during a lesson, the teacher asks the students to open the their inbox, to which they have been sent another link, a link to the general public questionnaire, if they have given consent and if their parents have given consent. So this is important. And these students that have their consent, they can fill out a general public questionnaire. And other students that do not have this consent, and it's likely that not everyone gets consent, because of organizational issues, or maybe parents disagree, maybe the students disagrees. It's all possible, but other students can then do their homework, for instance. Now, students that are a bit older, in the Netherlands, that is 16 or older, then the teacher can simply provide a link to the general public questionnaire, and the students can just take the quiz. So that's for secondary education, and this is a proposed workflow for primary education, which might be, it's also very challenging, because, well, ideally, you have a consent form, because also here the parents have to give their consent for their child to take part in our research. So a teacher would need to introduce our project, CURIOSOIL, and then give the pupils, the smaller children, a consent form to take home so the parents can sign it. Or we have a link to consent Qualtrics sent to the parents. That's another option. But maybe not possible in every country. Anyhow, the parents, we need them to sign the consent form, either in Qualtrics or on a hard copy paper. The students, if it's a hard copy, need to bring it to school, and then the teacher can collect it and save it. But the teacher cannot have a look at which students have consent and which students do not have consent, or pupils, the smaller children. So that's a difficulty. So that means that the CURIOSOIL partner, or the one in a country that has the ethical consent, needs to go to the school, make a list of the pupils who have consent, parental consent, and then during a lesson, let's say about soil, at the start of such a lesson, the students or the pupils that have consent can take the quiz, and then the others, they need to do something else, because they cannot also do the quiz, because it's all anonymous, so we cannot distinguish between them. So that's a bit of reality that we have to deal with. And after the Qualtrics quiz is done at primary school, well, the work is done for the teacher and the CURIOSOIL partner. But if hard copy needs to be used to run the quiz, so the questionnaire, then in that case, the CURIOSOIL partner needs to collect all the hard copies and enter them into Qualtrics themselves. So that's quite a lot of extra work. So if we can avoid it, we should use Qualtrics instead of hard copies, if we can avoid it. Okay, so this is quite a workflow story. Now, so trying to become more concrete, what are we to do? So if we have the country, we are in the country, we have the primary education, one can play a part in, or secondary education. So let's start with secondary education. In fact, what you would need there preferably is 2 Qualtrics versions. So a Qualtrics consent version where the students and the parents can give their consent. And of course, the general public Qualtrics that is ready, at least in English and also in Dutch, that also needs to be made. So if that is ready, the text should be sent to us, basically, to Wageningen University. And Nafise Takizada, she is the PhD candidate who handles these quizzes. So she should be sent the text that need to be inserted into the quiz. requires some communication, of course. And then the SLAF, so the soil literacy assessment, can be implemented into the secondary school. Now, going to primary education, perhaps the consent form needs to be hard copy, or Qualtrics, preferably Qualtrics, but that might be an issue. If it's Qualtrics, it needs to be sent to Nafisa also. If it's a hard copy, the teacher needs to collect it and just keep it for the CURIOSOIL partner to come to the school and make a list of the pupils who can do the quiz. Next, if a hard copy questionnaire needs to be used because Qualtrics is not possible at the school, at the primary school, then the partner needs to enter everything into Qualtrics themselves. If Qualtrics can be used, then again, this is needed anyways. A translation needs to be sent to Nafisa so she can put it into Qualtrics so the country can run the quiz at primary level. So this is the story. Maybe it's a bit complicated, all these workflows. These are just proposed workflows. This process of making the perfect workflow is still ongoing. We have also some issues with preparing, let's say, the consent Qualtrics, which you can sign, the parents can sign, the students can sign. Of course, the general public questionnaire is ready. It can be translated into the languages that we need. However, the primary education Qualtrics or questionnaire, is not quite ready yet. We are almost there, but at this moment, I cannot say it's perfectly ready. This is the story. I'm sorry to have taken a bit of extra time, I think. But yeah, so thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ingrid. And I will pick up the question from Dora, which is a very relevant question about maybe a dry run of how it is to run the Qualtrics service. So here it is. So the link is part of the presentation. It's part of the QR code. So that is an example of the questionnaire for the general public, and it starts first with the participation consent. With a few guidelines to ensure that this is totally voluntary, that some question can be skipped, explaining who is the data processing individual, what are the ethics committee who approved this research protocol. So it starts with a few informations about it. I will just randomly reply for now. Voila. And after specifying all of this level, then we get into the questionnaire itself. I will not continue because then it will make a reply, and I already did it. So that is how it is. So we will share it again, the link for the general questionnaire Qualtrics.
So far, if I may add, the pilot done on 2 different primary schools, it was fine. The pupils know what to do. It was very easy. If you are able to use Qualtrics, it's all very easy.
Voila. So the question about when will the primary educations will be ready. So first about the secondary education. So the secondary education, it is ready, right? I mean, we have the same questionnaire basically from 14 years old onwards.
Yes.
So it is ready. Secondary schools, yes. 14 years old onwards, it is ready.
Questionnaire is ready.
Voila. The primary school questionnaire, it's not that it's not ready. We have a pilot in the Netherlands, and it's due to the wording of the question, due to the wording of some answers that don't allow for...
Yeah, we are running all sorts of statistical tests I will not bother you with, but so a couple of questions might need to be revised still. But in general terms, or mostly it's not changed a lot, let's say, but some changes need to be made. Yeah.
I'm muted. So that's what the message I want to share here is that the pilot in the Netherlands showed that the translation in Dutch needed to be reworked. How the questions are made need to be reworked.
No, it's well, so the pilot was run in Dutch, that's true, but it was like the best translation, well, personally I could come up with, but translating the primary education questionnaire is not an easy task. That might even require some communication still, if people have questions about it. But it was the original questionnaire we, of course, designed in English. But it was a literal translation, let's say, as good as we could do it. But of course, if you translate something that needs to be understandable for children aged between 8 and 12, you cannot translate it literally, because every language has its own difficulties, let's say, for certain levels. So yeah, that's just not too easy. But we tested it on the Dutch. So with the Dutch questionnaire, but it means that any revision we make also needs to be revised in the English version, and then of course all other languages.
Voila, so getting in touch now with the school, presenting the protocol and the different steps, that can be done now, because by then, by the time you will get in touch with them, you will schedule a slot with the teachers, we will be mid-autumn, and those elements will be done. And if
Yes.
even if you're too fast, well, try the current one. You will be piloting it in your own country. You will be giving us the feedback. But I don't think it is time wasted. I mean, I'm in touch with my school now, early September. They don't want to hear it before October. So it's correct. The timelines are correct. Excellent question from Dora about the age groups and primary education. So in Finland, 14 and 15 years old is still primary school. So which one should we use?
Secondary, because that's why we have the ages next to it. So our, let's say, primary education questionnaire is really ages 8 up to 12. And secondary school, or yeah, primary school, but then ages 14, 15, you should use the general public questionnaire. Yeah, this one. Thanks, Abdul. I would keep to this. And then, yeah, if you have children aged 13, teacher needs to decide. Yeah, I would go for the secondary education one, to be honest, because the primary education one is 12 years is fine, but it's getting on to it's already a bit old for this questionnaire.
It will be a little bit too easy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And Armando, we totally get it. Different countries will have different planning. So yes, October, end October, mid-October would be good.
Yeah, I believe we have this entire year to test, basically. I mean, the sooner the better, obviously, but we need to have good questionnaires that are really, let's say, publishable and scientifically, yeah, correct or usable. And that's why it takes a bit of time, but there is time this year, so 25, school year 25, 26, to do the measurements, collect the data.
To get the why are we doing this questionnaire, why are we doing this assessment, is to measure what is the baseline, what is the status of soil literacy right now, before we start providing courses and educational material, so we can measure if there was a significant increase through those activities. So that's the why. So that's why we need to do it. We are invited to do it this year before we launch the courses and the trainings.
Ideally, yes. It's to see where we are now, and especially where we need to fill any gaps, and where we may be able to fill any gaps, let's say in knowledge, but perhaps also in attitude or soil skills.
So excellent question from Dora. But do we prefer the questionnaire done just before the lesson, or I guess after the lesson?
Actually, before. So let's say you want to teach the children a lesson about soil, or you are teaching about soil, you take some time, you take an afternoon to teach the children about soil, and then ideally first you do the quiz with the children, and then you teach them about soil, because otherwise you already have implemented, let's say, certain tools to teach them, which is great, but it doesn't provide us with the baseline measurement.
I have updated the slides to clarify this step. Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation, Ingrid. I think it was very clear now, especially with the protocol and the different steps. And thank you for the question to help us clarify. Thank you. I will be pasting also on the drive all the documents that you need here. So this is most of you know already this folder because you helped worked on the translation, but this is all the documents on the soil assessment framework. So you have a recording of a session where we explained different example of lesson plans. How can the teacher start explaining and introducing the questionnaire? I introduce also a frequently asked question document where I will enrich with what we talked today. And then we have templates of letters for the schools to inform them, to request a time slot to run those courses, those questionnaire and lessons. And then for each country, we have the letter to school, the primary education questionnaire, and the public questionnaire in all the languages that were translated. We have also translated all the consent forms in the target languages. And we have, sadly, just in English for now, a lesson plan for primary education and for secondary education. Voilà. Yes, Ingrid.
Well, one small addition. So these translations that can be found here, they need to be, let's say, revised, checked, because no machine can do that so far, or AI. So this is very important. And if a translation for a certain country is ready, and also the party who has ethical consent to collect the data, also very important, then the questionnaire, if the translation is ready, needs to be sent to Nafisa so she can enter it into Qualtrics. And then she provides a link or QR code, which you can use in the classroom. And then the children, the students, the pupils, whoever can enter the quiz and do it.
You will receive, yes, the Qualtrics links for all the translation. And if it's paper-based, it's here, or also to get approval that you need to show here they are. Here's the protocols, here is the consent form, and here's the list of questions that they're going to see.
Also that, yeah, and it needs to be, of course, the same version, the paper hard copy, Qualtrics. It needs some checking, let's say, some communication to and fro.
All right. Thank you, Ingrid. That was for the SLAF. I will give now the floor for Alberto for the Policy National Working Group. Yes. And I'll share the slides.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Abdul. Well, my name is Alberto. I work at the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, and I will be presenting some of the activities that we are planning to do regarding policy and soil education. So here in this slide, you can see the workflow for the participative activities that we will do regarding policy. So we are going to organize several participatory activities to bring together different stakeholders to gather knowledge from them and expertise in order to define policy recommendations and in order to develop different policy advocacy activities. So first of all, we have already did some focus groups in order to validate the soil education policy analysis that we have done for all the different countries involved in CURIOSOIL. Then the next step would be to do 2 different workshops per country. So in each country, we will do a primary and secondary education workshop to engage school leaders and school heads. And also we will do tertiary education workshops for engaging different actors for this education level. I will be presenting these workshops because the idea is to organize and to plan these workshops during the next months and to implement those workshops, to do the workshops between October and April, between October 2025 and April 2026. After the results of these workshops would be very useful for us to develop policy recommendations for soil education that we will present in different national conferences that we will do in the coming years in 2026 and 2027 with policymakers in the different countries. And last but not least, we will be working at a European level, working in the development of a policy brief with different policy recommendations at a European level beyond the specific national policy briefs that will be the output of the national conferences. So this is more or less the workflow, the general workflow that we will be following in the coming months and years. But now I will be work a little bit more. I will present with a little bit more detail the objectives, the countries, the format, the structure of the national workshops that we will be organizing in the coming months. So the main objective of these workshops is to engage key actors in soil education at primary, secondary, and also in tertiary education levels to co-develop with these actors, with these stakeholders, policy recommendations. We will be working on the 15 countries involved in CURIOSOIL, and for the primary and secondary education workshops, we will be doing hybrid and face-to-face meetings, and for the tertiary education workshops, we will do online meetings. So in some cases, for some countries, we will be maybe organizing the workshops together, the primary, secondary, and tertiary education workshops at the same place. And also for some cases, we will be organizing workshops for multiple countries. Now the structure of the content will be as follows. So first of all, we will be providing an introduction to the CURIOSOIL project, and we will facilitate discussions on 3 main topics: the soil education context of each country, the materials and resources available and the need of different materials and resources, and also we will be identifying with the participants different recommendations, policy recommendations for policy making. So here you can see the structure with a little bit more detail. So first of all, regarding the first item, the soil education context, we will be reviewing the main results of the conclusions of the analysis that we have done, identifying strengths, weaknesses, opportunities of each soil education context of each country, and the outcome would be the identification of those needs, barriers for soil education policies. Then we will be presenting the education materials, the guidelines, the MOOCs, and the best practices that we have already identified for the different countries, and we will be working with the participants to identify potential resources and practices, methods, topics, and materials that are needed for soil education that could be reinforced with different policies. And the most important aspects would be to co-create targeted policy recommendations that will be adapted.
So Alberto disappeared, but I will continue what he was sharing. So the idea is that every step of these workshops makes an adaptation to the guidelines that we have identified on the policy analysis that has run throughout this year. Some of you have already attended. We made one analysis per country that we want to finalize and to test there. the main objective also of this workshop is to invite policymakers or people working in academia on a national level or regional level, so that they are involved in the guidelines that we're gonna make, right? The results of our analysis is one thing, and then the on-site real-world knowledge from those decision maker can help us get traction for when we will advocate for soil education to be, for soil literacy to be a bit more embedded into the education. So that is why there is this collective workshops of co-creation, so that the recommendations that we're gonna deliver at the end of the project can be with a real grounding and with support to reach another level and influence level. Voilà. So to go back to this timeline, that is why we have those national workshops, 2 per country at the beginning, so we can prepare those recommendations that we're gonna culminate in national conferences by the end of 26. So we can present those recommendations and push them forward. And at the end of CURIOSOIL project, which ends in February 28, we're gonna make a final event, a final conference, so that those recommendations can also reach the EU level and ripple down. So there's a bottom up, and then it's gonna so that it can come. Yep. So up about the structure and the content. So these are engagement opportunity and invitations. They are being coordinated by the CURIOSOIL team, also by the community of practice leaders. And we are also looking between different actors for logistics coordinator, for facilitators during those workshops, for presenters, especially those who have keenly worked on the national review of the policy of soil education, of education. Voila. So the mandatory and presential option is related to COP leaders and to CURIOSOIL partners. So to answer Dora, to your question, is it based on volunteering? So COP leaders are funded for their activity, and this is an expectation for them to support this activity. For participants from the COP members, the travel cost on selection will be reimbursed, and that's one of the engagement opportunity. Otherwise, yes, it is on a voluntary base. And the timeline for yes, on the volunteering as well. We are not allowed to fund them. That would be a conflict of interest. We are not allowed to fund the policymaker or decision maker, but we can help them make it as accessible as possible, either to travel or to making it hybrid.
Yes. Hello, Abdul. Sorry, apologies. I had an issue with the connection, but I can continue with the presentation if you prefer to do.
Yes, we are on the timeline now. I explained
Okay.
structure and content. Maybe I went a little too fast on the structure and content. If you want to repeat it.
Yeah, well, just to mention that, yeah, here you can see the different roles that we will be that we will have for organizing the national workshops, the logistic coordinations that we working on identifying the venue, the catering and the invitations, and in online the logistic coordinator would organize the online session, and the facilitator that will be moderating the different discussions, the introduction, the closure, and the different activities. So just to mention that these workshops are also an opportunity for the COP leaders to be involved in these activities, depending on your availability in each one of the countries. So any support regarding the coordination of the logistics and the facilitations also would be very welcome. So I don't know if you can move to the next slide.
Yes, on the
yeah. Thank you. So so now we are presenting the draft of the structure, the roles, the objectives, and the format of the different national workshops. Now we will be working with the different partners on finalizing the draft of the workshops and the different guiding questions and the structure to have a basic template that will be adapted to each country depending on the results of the analysis and on the different educational national level. Also, we are proposing to have a meeting with the COP leaders the 30th of September to present with a little bit more detail this draft plan and to validate it with you, and to have a specific session to discuss about these workshops the 30th of September at 2 o'clock. And after we have validated this plan, we will be finalizing the plan by the end of October. So that's one of the main milestones that we have to achieve, to have everything organized by the end of October, with the dates, with the venues of each one of the workshops for each country. So between October 2025 and April 2026, we will be doing these workshops in each country in order to gather all the information, to analyze all the results, and to develop the final policy recommendations between May 2026 and July 2026. So the objective is to have everything done by July. So yeah, here you can see like the main timeline that we will be following to organize these national workshops. So yeah, that would be everything from my side, and thank you very much.
I will reiterate that on this 30th of September meeting, I hope everybody has received an invitation there. If you have registered for today's meeting, you were invited already. I will be sending an update, and if there are more questions then on the preparation of the national workshops, please join, and we will be launching national groups, working groups to deliver them. All right. All right. So as expected, we are running a little bit out of time. I will leave you with a little gift from ISRIC, for the World Soil Museum, which have started the beta version of the app, of the World Soil Museum app. So you can scan this with your phone, or I will also paste in a second on the chat and in the follow-up email how you can access it. It's a beta version. This is one of the first steps of asking you for feedback on how things, how one of the CURIOSOIL deliverable is received. For now, it's mainly in English, and it's going to be all the content will be translated pretty soon in other languages. It's only accessible through phone, so even if I paste it here, I recommend you join through a phone. And voila, if I had a little more time, I would have shared you a few recordings on the app itself. So here's the link for the feedback form, where you can find again the QR code for the app. And if I can do just a little demo, of it, how it looks like if you come onto your phone. So yeah, I invite you to please choose English. We don't have the other languages for now. It's just a beta version, and off we go to the app with different questions, with different introductions.
Museum? A museum.
The World Soil Museum is a unique museum, truly unique, as it presents soils from all over the world. It's based in Wageningen because Wageningen is a hotspot for soil science in the Netherlands, but also internationally, and therefore it's well placed here. The World Soil Museum is part of ISRIC World Soil Information, which is largely a data center for soils, a reference and information center, with the World Soil Museum as one of its components. What we can see in the museum are soils from all over the world. There's a big diversity of soils and associated properties and functions. We highlight the major soils of the world here, and soil is a very important natural resource, but is invisible to most people. So here you can really see the depth dimension of soils, and since soils are a bit difficult to communicate, we do storytelling here. So we tell stories about soils, the history, land use history, and other related stories to bridge the gap between public and the topic of soils. Also, we have digital media in the museum that bridges the gap with what ISRIC World Soil Information does, namely bringing together soil information from all over the world, harmonizing that, scrutinizing, using state-of-the-art models, and to make soil information globally accessible. And you can see those digital maps here in the museum. The role of soils is highlighted here in the museum related to important global themes such as food security, ecosystem functioning, water availability, biodiversity. So it's always worth at any moment to visit the World Soil Museum on the Wageningen campus.
I hope that motivated you to see a little bit more about it on your phones. And with this, I would love to conclude this back to school CURIOSOIL COP meeting. I think it was one of the richest in terms of content and engagement opportunities. Look forward to the follow-up email with all the different invitations. The app, it's a beta, so if you share it to the public, I recommend not in social media as something that's ready. I really highlight that this is a beta version, but otherwise, please, yes, we're looking for feedback. There is a form for you to give feedback, so we can make it good, we can improve it. And the next step after having it finalized is to translate it in other languages. So the translation will be starting in, I think, in November. So we can finalize the beta. Let me check. Yes, we will start the review of the translation in November, because we're gonna take September, October for this beta test, finalize it, and then move on. Thank you, Dora, for the feedback. Please pass it on also on the form for the team that is working on it. Always a word of appreciation, always welcome. With this, you are free to go. I wish you all a very good afternoon. See you on the 30th of September to start working on those national workshops to try to shift and embed soil literacy into the formal education, and hopefully in other spaces as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.